All right. Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Developing Dad podcast. I am your host, Michael J. Griffin Jr., and today we have a special episode, sort of a black culture review, but we're going to talk about it's an election mega edition, right? But before we get started, I need you to like, comment, subscribe, share the video out, let people know what's happening so that we can have this conversation. All right. Now, let's get straight to it, okay? Let's see. We're gonna bring this up. All right. Welcome to everybody that's joining in. But before we get started, I got to, do the thing, right? Linktree, if you want to find me, support anything that we're doing. Linktree slash Developing Dad Podcast. That is how you can support the channel. Cash App, Venmo, YouTube channel, Gumroad products, teachable classes that I'm building, things like that. Memberships are available on YouTube as well. I'm adding some content for members as we speak, while I'm going through this November cycle. Logic, we're going to be talking about logic and rhetoric, some other things about manhood. We're going to have some interesting things happening, but for those that are members, you're going to get those. So be paying attention to that stuff. Now, let's get to the nitty gritty. All right. So wait, where's the thumbnail? There we go. All right. So blacks in the booth. Blacks in the booth. All right, blacks in the booth. And a special election edition. Now, I'm going to let you all know that I'm going to be building this plane while flying. I had a very busy day. I have some notes and I have a lot of links, but I'm going to build this plane while flying. So you're going to see me putting links in and copying and pasting and stuff like that. So I hope you all don't mind. But let's talk about this first. All right. So I want to have this discussion first, and welcome to everybody that's joining in. Thank you all for the likes. I really appreciate it. We got five people liking and five people watching. Come on, that's right, perfect ratio. All right, so let's keep that up. Okay, so let's talk about this. I actually want to ask this question. Where is it? Let's see. Let's ask this question. A really simple question. Here we go. All right. I'm going to bring this down. You're going to see this pop up. There you go. But I'm going to change it really quick. All right. That's the last one. All right. Here we go. So let's have ugh, no, that's not good. All right. Let's have this discussion here. All right. Where is it? Where is it? Why is it doing that? All right. Here we go. Are Christians required to vote? Let's have that discussion. Okay. I'm going to ask this question because I think it's an important question. All right. Let's see. I don't know why it's doing this weird thing here, where it's trying to, yeah. Anyway, let's do this. If I do that, will it? I don't know. Why won't it do the? Anyway, what's going on, Dwayne? Yes, what's going on? What's going on? I don't know why it's doing this weird thing, where it's putting a, uh, yeah. This is really weird. Anyway, fixed position, but whatever. All right, let me try it again. Are Christians required to vote? It will not. Anyway, whatever. All right, so are Christians required to vote? And there's a lot of discussion about this as we come upon election season. People are asking the question, who should you vote for? And I like to, hey Shamira, how you doing? I like to pull back one level and ask the question: are Christians required to vote? Right. So Kiana, that's good. Chime in the comments. Required, I would say no. Should they? I would say absolutely. All right. So now, when you say required, so and when you speak in certain terms, like the word should implies that it's a requirement, right? I don't know. I mean, but language wise, so shoulds and oughts get into the realm. It brings us into the realm of absolutes, right? You shall not murder. You should not murder, right? Basically the same idea, right? I would I would I would encourage. It depends on the. So for me, it would depend on the situation, right? So Shamira says, I think they are required to vote. So why do you think they are, Shamira? Why do you think they're required, that Christians are required to vote, right? And I think it also, a lot of it depends on where you are. Obviously, if you're a Christian living in a in a communist country where you don't have the right to vote, you're not required to do it because you don't have that right, right? You don't have it, so you can't really expect a Christian to exercise something that they don't, a right that they don't have, right? Um, yes. Okay, so look, there's another good one. All right, Christians are required to be good citizens and bring prosperity to the area that they influence. I like that. I like that. See, this is what I wanted to get. I wanted to get that discussion going in the comments, right? All right. Oh, here we go. Here we go. What Dwayne says it right here. You shouldn't vote against your best interest no matter what your religious beliefs are. Now that's a powerful statement, right? You shouldn't vote against your best interest. Um, when you actually have the opportunity to vote, you should think about so this is a really good question, Dwayne, that you bring up. Should it be your best interest or the best interest of the country at large? Because think about this. People who vote Democrat think they're voting for their best interest. And I'm gonna talk about both parties. So let's say you are on um, let's just say you're on government assistance. And the party that there's a party that wants to continue giving you those government benefits and those subsidies, and there's a party that wants to cut them off. Which one do you think is in your best interest, right? So this is where we get into the area of understanding what actually is your best interest, because a person who's on those subsidies would think, because if you think about it, um, certain companies are getting subsidies from the government, like farm subsidies and things like that. They never want to see those things uh, go away. So they're always going to vote and lobby for the politicians that will continue to hand out those subsidies. So you have large companies that are receiving subsidies, and then you have the government assistance programs. But both of them are coming from the same well. They're digging from the same well, and they both think that they're voting in their best interests. So that's another question just to think about, because you have lots of big companies who will never get rid of entrenched politicians who support their right to continue to get government subsidies to support their business and to keep their business viable, right? So they're farm subsidies that go back to the 1920s. They're things that we don't even recognize that rich people use. What's going on? What's going on? Let's see what's happening. What's happening? What's happening? It's the first time I'm seeing this name here. What's going on, Jalone? Is that how you say your name? All right. So let's see. Let's see. All right. So we got that. All right. We help to have a day. We hope to have a day so in who leads us. We hope to have a say in who leads us. That is important. That is true. That is true. A say so. Yes, I got it. I picked it up. Shamira. All right, let's see. Dwayne, what do you say? Democrats have been too soft on crimes these days, and with wars breaking out, you have to be tough. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Let me grab something. I'm gonna grab this real quick. Hope I don't fall. All right, let's see. Okay, that's my tea. I'm grabbing my tea so I don't. I need to keep hydrated. All right. So, but that's a really good question. We have to think about. All right, are Christians required to vote? What does it look like for um, Christians in America? Because we are obviously in the United States. We're obviously different because we've been granted this right. There you go. I think I fixed it. All right, boom. I just that was just driving me up a wall, y'all. I couldn't keep. There you go. All right, are Christians required to vote? Let me center that bad boy. Wait, no, that's not what I want. All right. I was trying to center the text, but apparently centering the text makes it center the entire thing. Anyway. All right. So are we required to vote? So we got some people say we are required. All right. So what is your exegetical argument for saying that Christians should vote? And that's always my I think every time you're trying to convince, when you're engaging in rhetoric and you're trying to convince a Christian to do X, it should always be done exegetically. We should always pull from the text sound principles that help us to decide whether or not we should engage in an activity. Now, once we decide whether or not we should, then it comes to the point where we say, okay, this is still driving me, this whole, I'm going to do that. Yeah, there it is. All right, there you go. Then we have to decide, once we do that, are we required to do it? How should we do it, right? What you saying? What you talking about? Let's see. Let's see. All right, all right. We say we live in a fallen world, yes, with fallen leaders. So we should, since we have the right in a constitutional republic, to choose the lesser evil and prefer what aligns with kingdom priority. I like that. See, now that sounds like um an argument derived from the scriptures, right? Fallen world, leaders are fallen. The Bible discusses. So if you would even go to Samuel, when the Israelites were choosing the king, right? So that's an exegetical argument. You could say, don't look at appearance, but judge with right judgment. Like, don't, God looks at the heart. The people of Israel decided, I like this guy because he's handsome and he's tall. So they picked Saul because he was handsome and tall, the tallest among all the people, right? And he, good looking guy. Yeah, he can lead us. He's strong. That's why they chose him, not because he followed the Lord. Now we do live in a fallen world, like Alan says, but we have the opportunity, just like the Israelites at that moment, at that juncture, when they were trying to decide who their king was. We have the capability or the right to choose someone who's godly. Now, the second part of what Alan said, we have to choose the lesser evil and prefer what aligns with kingdom priority. That's where we get into the next question, right? So if we decide, let me look at Thomas's quote before we go to the next question, right? No, he said the only time Christians participated in a political process I recollect in the Bible was when they were forced to return to their native land regarding citizenship. So you say emphatic no. Thomas says an emphatic no. We do not, or we are not required to vote. Okay, and again, like these are arguments that that Christians are going to have for a long time. I lean towards us not being required, but I also think in many cases it is prudent for us to vote. But the next question is because I'm more this is my personal conviction, right? I think that for the most part, federal elections are sort of for the most part, don't get me wrong here. Now, there's some times when a federal election can actually sway things. I think that's also a problem. I lean more libertarian in my views. I think the large federal government should be anathematized because I think that it is a departure. It is a complete departure from what the Constitution, the framers and the authors of the Constitution, the fathers of the country, I think is a departure from what they expected the country to be. A large federal government is not what they were envisioning when they created this country. So the fact that everything is so, like, federal elections have become so important, I think we've lost the republic for the most part, or the vision of the republic for the most part, because federal elections have become so important. I think that we should participate in local and state elections, and we should be very active in local and state politics as much as we can be as Christians. I think it would be wise for us. I'm not going to say should. I think it will be wise for us to participate in those elections, and be more adamant and what's the word I'm looking for? Demonstrative in our participation in local and state elections. Federal elections, I'm a little bit less gung ho about, because I think, again, the more power we give to the federal government, the less freedoms we have. And let's see. All right, but let's look at some of these other comments, because this is going to be more of a discussion. I have some videos queued up, but I want to get you all's thoughts. I'm basically checking the temperature of the room, right? So Dwayne says the major factor seems to be with abortion, and you would think Christians are against this, but they are outnumbered with this because a lot of Christians, right? You say, "Are boy," I'm glad you put that in quotes, brother, are for abortion these days as well. And that Dwayne, you are hitting the nail on the head for something that is very important. Um, I usually use so rhetoric is the art and science, or the science and art of persuading, of persuasion, essentially. And a rhetor in Christian context is someone who persuades people to act in accordance with biblical wisdom. For generations, we have had Christian rhetors not doing that exact thing. So they have not been persuading people to act in accordance with biblical wisdom, which is why, Dwayne, you see professing Christians advocating for the wholesale slaughter of babies in the womb. It is the one of the most so Christianity is about life, about Christ coming to give us life. We have and about sacrificing for the good of the other. That's the whole Christian message. We sacrifice for one another. Christ sacrificed for us, so we sacrifice for others in the way we walk, in the way we live. We serve one another, and abortion is the exact opposite of that. I'm going to murder in order to serve myself. Like, this person's life needs to end so that I can serve myself. So again, even on the face of it, it is antithetical to the Christian message. But you see, Christian rhetoric has it's become so deplorable that from the pulpit you can advocate abortion and no one will say boo, for the most part. It used to be a time in America where, I mean, we've always had our, sin issues as a nation to deal with. But there used to be a time when we understood that murder was murder. So, but yeah, let's keep going. Let's keep going to some of these comments. Ooh, boy, I think it's good. Like, okay, so Kiana says, I think as Christians we should vote because we are to seek the good of the land that we are in. Also, as Christians, we understand that the government is to punish evildoers. We should help that. I like that. So that's another good exegetical argument, right? So you're going to Daniel, or actually, Jeremiah, right? Seek the good of the city where if you're in exile, living in exile. And I've heard that from pulpits as well. As we are living as exiles in this land, that the world is not our home, right? And we should seek the good of the land while we're here, and that involves voting. So voting is a part of that, right? Now, the post-millennial in me, the post-millennial Christian in me would say voting is a part of that. I would also say that the more important part of that is the discipleship and education of our children, to raise up the next generation to fear God, so that we have godly leaders, godly law enforcement, godly doctors, godly lawyers, godly politicians, godly everything, right? So that it would be whether we voted for them or not, people are being raised up to be godly. No matter, you only have options of godly people, right? So that would actually be, the ideal situation, which is what I believe we should be marching towards as a post-millennial Christian. I believe that that's what we should be marching towards. We should be walking out each day, trying to bring to pass those things, right? More Christian people preaching the gospel, raising your children right, raising your children in the fear and admonition of the Lord, right? But I agree with that we should seek the good, the welfare of the place where we are as exiles, right? So let's see. A large federal government is unconstitutional and the devil. All right, come on, don't hold back. Right, local elections really do matter more. Yeah, they do. They really do, because if you can get godly politicians locally, they'll begin to push back against some of this federal foolishness. And then, where do you think all of the the federal people always start local? It's rare that they don't start somewhere locally. They build their name locally. Yeah. So what you got to say, Thomas? All right, let's see. When the so-called Christians, Jews, had the choice to choose between Jesus and the murdered, this was a vote between God and government. Today's church places us in the same fate. When they were like, hey, Barabbas or Jesus, and they voted. It seems like when in the Bible when people vote, they're voting the wrong people in, right? When the Israelites had a chance to say select a king, who did they pick? They picked Saul, right? A man not after God's own heart. They looked at they were like, "Ooh, man, he's handsome. Let's pick him." And then Jesus or Barabbas is like, "Oh yeah, give us Barabbas." You know, it's like, what's going on? What is going on? Oh man, it's not a good look for Christians or the people of God voting, right? I don't know where I fall on eschatology, but I agree with you about discipleship portion. Yeah, I think everybody, whether you're post-millennial or not, or you're amillennial, post-millennial, premillennial, whether you're idealist, futurist, preterist, historicist, whatever position you land on, I think everybody can agree with Ephesians 6:4, right? Fathers, bring your children up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord, right? That you don't need to be certain. What we think about eschatology is how we think this is actually going to pan out. Us discipling, what's going to be the end, right? Is it going to be more Christians in a Christianized world like the post millennials? Do you believe it's going to be waxing? It's got wax and wane throughout history, kind of like the idealists or the and then the historians or the preterists or whatever. Post millennial. Yeah, we can get into a discussion about eschatology all day, but I think we all can agree that we're supposed to be discipling people. Like that goes without saying, right? Because discipling is just modeling the Christian faith before them, teaching them and modeling them, and then encouraging, rebuking, and exhorting them, in the body. That's all it is, right? So that's basically what we're supposed to be doing as a Christian life. Yes, Jason said it. We need godly everybody, right? So yes, yes, yes. And what's going on? What's going on to my brother, dear woke Christian? All right. The problem, and if y'all not subscribed to him, I'm pretty sure y'all already are, but go do it. All right. The problem is God has been taken out. Started with the removal of the national anthem, "One Nation Under God." Well, so there's actually an interesting video. I'm going to post it on the community tab about the national anthem. It'd be interesting. Its source and origin. You might be surprised about that, Dwayne. It'd be very interesting to take a look at that. All right. So that's why Trump was elected, even though he had his flaws as a person, but some of his values were strong. Well, Trump took advantage of the populist movement. There was a voice that was being ignored in Middle America. The factory worker, the hardworking factory people, those people who were just being ignored by both parties for the most part. Trump came in and showed that voting block has power, and they are easier to galvanize than some other groups. And once they felt like their rights were being right, it's basically the idea of if you remember from South Park, they took our jobs, right? They took our jobs. If you want to get that voting block to the polls, threaten what they believe about America, threaten what they believe what is good and right and true and just, and they went to the polls en masse and got Trump elected that first time, right? Because he spoke like them, he spoke their language, very direct, not beating around the bush, no political speak. He came with the guns blazing, telling people, "Oh yeah, you're a fool. You're an idiot. Stop lying to the people." That was the voice that they wanted. And people resonated with that voice, and that's what got him elected. And that's what's going to have him being a contender for this next one in 2 years. So let's see. So I agree with that. We all need to be we need to be making disciples in our home, on our jobs, in the church. One of the great failures of the American church is discipleship. So we went high on the Billy Graham tent revival, get them saved, have them profess. But then where do they go to church to become discipled, right? How do you become a disciple? And I think that's where a lot of the problems we see in the American church today started with the, get them saved, get them dunked, and then disciple them. We don't really need to worry about that. They can go learn from hippie Jesus or Republican Jesus or liberal Jesus or whoever else. No, we want them learning from the biblical Christ. We want them. Where's my Bible? It's down there somewhere. I'm gonna pull up the Greek Bible if I have to. But we want them learning from, from sound biblical teachers. And I think a lot of that was eroded over generations. And now we're seeing, like Dwayne said, we have people who claim to be Christians that say they're for abortion. Right? Yeah. Yeah, you're not a fan of coerced patriotism. I get it. I get it. I'm not a fan of that either. All right. So, how should Christians vote? You see, I have the four options up there, right? Do y'all know what those two options on the outside are? Right. The one that I know everybody knows the two in the middle. All right. Republican, Democrat. So, if you decide that you want to vote, and I would say, from my perspective, you're not in sin if you decide not to vote, because voting is only part of the way that you can seek the welfare of the city, of the place where you are. And in a lot of cases, they present you with options that you would not even want to participate in. So, yeah, tent revivals were a bad move. Yes, they were. Yeah, and unfortunately, I align with I'm a part of the denomination that is famous for tent revivals. I tell most people, I tell most Presbyterians, I'm more Presbyterian than they are. Like when I meet Presbyterians down here, I'm like, what? Yeah, I'm more Presbyterian than you are. Like when it comes to, I just don't baptize babies. But yes, the porcupine is libertarian. And the one to the left, anybody know what that one is? The one to the left, all the way to the left, my left, right next to the elephant. Anybody know? Anybody? Going once? Going twice. Sipping my tea while I talk to y'all. All right. Nobody knows. It's the Constitution Party. I chose that one. Right. A lot of people don't know about that one. Now, this sort of goes back to the idea of, let's see. What you got, Thomas? Let me see. This looks like a good one. Christian leadership has forgotten how to work with the government, as did Nehemiah. He petitioned to rebuild the wall for his people, yet he didn't. I think you meant he didn't sell out his people in the process. Members did, though. Yeah, I agree with that. So I think a lot of times the church forgets that it is supposed to be a prophetic witness to the government, not to be in bed with the government. So the separation of church and state was to protect the church, not to protect the government from becoming. He said, I used to be a libertarian before I was saved. I don't consider myself a libertarian, but I do agree with some of the things that they say. But there's some, yeah, like with any party, there's a lot of overlap, because the truth is Christ, and then some of them they'll get some things right. And the Venn diagram is never one of these parties is directly aligned with Scripture. All right, let me make sure I don't want to forget what Thomas said, because this was very important. The prophetic witness for what is right and good, the church is supposed to be that. And the separation of church and state was designed to protect the church from the government. There's going to be no established church, so that all denominations, and it was supposed to be Protestant denominations that were a part of the government, were supposed to be able to speak prophetically to the government. And there were actually charters prior to the start of the United States, where you had to be a member of an approved church before you could actually hold office in a state. Like, that was actually a thing. It's in this that book that was telling America's Christian history, the untold story. You actually had charters where I'm gonna see if I can find one while y'all, let me see that. Let me see. Yeah, here it is. South Carolina, 1778. This was 2 years after, right? No person shall be eligible to hold office of governor who denies the existence of the supreme being. Here's another one. No person who denies the existence of a supreme being shall hold any office under this Constitution. All right. So we got, look, I mean, they were straight up with it, right? There, here it is. Where is it? I mean, it's all over the place. There's one for New Jersey, Georgia, Delaware, state constitutions, Delaware. So, Article 22, every person who shall be chosen a member of either house or appointed to any office or place of trust shall also make and subscribe the following declaration, to wit, this is 1776. I, underscore, do profess faith in God the Father and in Jesus Christ, his only Son, and in the Holy Ghost, one God, blessed forevermore, and I do acknowledge the Holy Scriptures of the Old and New Testament to be given by divine inspiration. This was, you had to believe this in order to hold an office in the House of the state of Delaware. This is just one of many. Like you got the Delaware, New Jersey, Georgia, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, North Carolina, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, right? This is like I'm telling y'all, go that book will open your eyes to some things. Thank goodness, thank the Lord for Gary DeMar for doing that research. But you have to believe the Trinity to hold an office in Delaware, right? Look, all right, so when was the last time a non-Republican or Democrat president has been elected? That's a great question. That's a great question. I know, all right, right. And then they gave us Biden. I know. So how should Christians vote? How should Christians vote? We talked about this earlier. I think Kiana mentioned it, and I think also Thomas mentioned it, and I think Alan mentioned it, that we should be seeking the welfare of the city, the good of the place where we are. So the answer I would say to that is clearly Christians should vote exegetically. What do I mean by that? You got to go to the scriptures. You got to mine from the scriptures. Everything we do should be done exegetically. But voting is no different. We should ask the clear questions of the policymakers, of the platform, of the party to whom we are casting our vote. How do your principles align with what we find in Scripture? How can I pull out from the Scripture the policies that you believe? Can I do that? Case in point, for the Democrat Party, pro-abortion, abortion on demand, they want it. Exegetically, how can I pull out and say, okay, well, this is something that a Christian can agree with in good conscience? Can I pull that out from the scriptures and say that this is something that Christians can vote for in good conscience? Right? We being made in the image of God. Whoever sheds man's blood, by man's blood, by a man's hand shall his blood be shed. For man was made in the image of God. So our belief in the image of God and the value and worth of a human life, right? That when blood is shed, that God hates the shedding of innocent blood. Proverbs chapter 6, right? God hates that. So when we look at these things and we think, okay, who's more innocent than the baby in the womb? Can I in good conscience vote? So you go premise, conclusion. Can I vote for the Democrat Party because of that? Nationally, right? Can I vote for a party that does that? So exegetically, how will we pull that out? And then you have to go to do the same thing for every party. Republicans, the same thing, right? Can for the things that they agree with, can I like, even if I have to like hold my nose, will God be honored by me voting for this party? Right? Who is going to do what's best for the country? Now, there are several things that I already said it on my Facebook page. I could never vote for a Democrat again. Like, that's just not happening. I just can't do it, right? I could never vote for a Democrat again, right? So let's go back to what we're talking about. All right, this ties to when black folks held positions in government as Republicans. That is true, because I think even in this book, I may be a part. I may be confusing this with another book, but black Republicans in the first slaves to be elected were elected as Republicans. Like the first people coming out of slavery, when blacks were able to be elected into office, where they were elected as Republicans. Let's see. Oh boy. Don't forget the KKK were Christians. The world, right? Well, they call themselves Christians. They would burn and lynch black families, then go to church and praise God. Right? I don't know what God they were praising. I don't know. I don't know what God they were praising. Right? Because you can't in good conscience lynch a fellow image bearer and then go and worship the Lord. Right? Um, Yeah. That's it. That's it. That's it right there. This is it. Go read the party platform with your Bible open, right? To see if it aligns with kingdom priority and check off each issue against scripture. That's a great way to do it. It's almost like an Annie chart, right? Affirmative, negative, interesting. You go down and you say, okay, affirmative. Can I affirm that this comes from the Bible? Negative. This is anti-scripture. Interesting. It may be adiaphorous. We can't really tell. But go through and make that list and say, all right, which one of these aligns more with the Bible? Can I, in good conscience, cast my vote for this person? And then you can look at the party platform, and then go look at the platform of the person that's running for office. How closely do they align with the scriptures? All right, that's it. Again, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Life is first and foremost. That's why they put it in there first. Life is so your liberty cannot infringe upon my life, right? And the pursuit of your happiness can infringe upon my liberty or my life, right? So it rolls down like that. So that's one of the reasons why the framers put those things in there. And these are inalienable rights. It's not that the government's giving them to us. These are rights that we have given to us by God because we're made in his image, right? The laws about the Ten Commandments, thou shalt not steal, implies property rights. You can't steal something from me if the community, you can't steal something from me if the community owns it. You can only steal it if it's owned by me. Now ultimately it's owned by God, but if he gives it to me as a steward, you can't take it just because you want it. Thou shalt not steal implies property rights. Thou shalt not kill. A murder implies that life is important. That life is of the highest. You can't end my life just because you want to, because you're angry with me, right? This is where we get good law. Going to the scriptures and figuring out what God has said, right? All right, so yes, we both in New Orleans. All right, it's difficult to differentiate between social and pleasure clubs, the church and outpost. Come on, bruh. Whoo, you talking? You preaching now? How politics are keeping us in these conditions. Pastors are bought at the pulpit. Thomas, I ain't got nothing else to say but agree. I agree with that. Amen. You really can't tell the difference, right? We have so many. Literally, the churches are nothing more at this point. A lot of them just social aid and pleasure clubs with a sprinkle of Bible on it every now and then. It's literally what most of them are. He ain't lying. All right, he ain't lying. All right, so let's see. I, by the grace of God, have never voted for the party of death. But had I voted absentee when I was first eligible to vote, I would have. I ain't gonna lie. I was eligible to vote in 1996, and up until 2012, I was straight Democrat. Every time I voted for Democrats because that's just what you do when you're following the narrative. From 1996 up until 2012, I voted blue the entire way. Never once did I vote for a Republican. It wasn't until 2012 that I stopped voting Democrat. Now I would go into various different other. I researched Republican. I researched Libertarian, Green, Constitution Party, starting that at that point in time. But yeah, the Party of Death, and that was back. It was 1996. You know, they are staunchly pro-death now in everything that they do. It's not even a negotiable anymore. In 96, you still had pro-life Democrats. I don't even know if how many of them still exist. Yeah. So what you say? You live in a red state and will not be voting for our governor because she blamed those that didn't want the vax for keeping the pandemic going. See, and that's a part of the problem, Kiana. So that's exactly one of the things that I was hoping somebody would bring that up. What's happened so rapidly is that everything has moved left. Everything. John F. Kennedy, let's think in the 60s. John F. Kennedy would be considered a raving lunatic Republican, conservative, with some of the values that he had in the 1960s. We've gone so, and now, like, you have the rhinos, Republican in name only. They literally are pointless. They're moving everything. So the Democrats are moving left at 1,000 miles an hour, and the Republicans are moving left at 600 miles an hour. Right? They're just a little bit slower for the most part. So you even get to the point where you're thinking, like, is my vote for a Republican going to do much of anything? Now, sometimes it actually does, but you're having to hold your nose a lot of the times if you want to vote for a Republican, because where are they? Where are they? Where's their spine? Um, where's their fortitude to call this stuff out vocally and adamantly and vote against it? Most of them are just light Democrats, right? Yeah. She will win. All right. So she will win. All right. But she exceeded her authority in 2020. And I have no reason to believe that she truly believes in personal autonomy. Oh, yeah. Talk is cheap. When push came to shove, she caved. Yeah. A lot of these politicians, they're not about individual liberty. Republicans are not the party of individual liberty anymore. There's still a vestige of them that identifies Republican, but for the most part, they're not about individual liberty anymore. Like that's a misnomer now. You can't in good conscience call them the party of small government, of personal liberty. They're no longer that. They jumped the shark a long time. They're like, yeah, they're hypocrites for the most part. Nationally, they're hypocrites. Yeah. See, there you go. Come on. I was eligible to vote in 1996 also, but didn't vote until 2002 when I landed in AZ. All right. Fun, shameful fact. I worked Clinton's second inaugural parade. Man, that's like, look, we all have these stories, right? We all have these stories. So those they don't, the Lord forgives, right? He forgives, right? Look, hey, you got another one. Look at that, look at that, look at that. Pro-life Democrats ended in 2009 with the passing of the Affordable Care Act. Yeah, there really is you really can't in good conscience call yourself a pro-life Democrat. It's like I said, it's a misnomer. You're misnaming yourself because your party, the party platform advocates for abortion. They want it on demand, whenever, wherever, however, up until the baby comes out. That's the platform. So how can you be a pro-life, pro-abortionist? It doesn't make any sense, right? What's going on, Mr. Wood? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? I was told that I like that profile picture. Come on now, the avatar. I was told that at one point in our nation's history, the Republicans and Democrats switched sides. Is this true? So the switching sides myth. All you have to do so there were some Southern Democrats that switched to the Republican Party. But there was no wholesale switch in ideology. That's a common tactic that they will use to try to get you to turn your brain off. But if you look at the policies and the practices of the Democrat Party throughout the 20th century on into the 21st century, they have not changed. They still want. So the party of slavery is now the party that keeps black people under the thumb consistently, right? Providing the low income blacks housing, food, clothing, putting them into ghettos, basically plantations with low rent, low class, what is it? Low budget housing, I guess it would be the best. And they turn a blind eye to the violence. They give black people little carrots every now and then, or trinkets. Here, take this, and then for the next 4 years, we don't want to hear from you all again. Keep killing your babies. We need less of you. The party of eugenics, the party of the KKK. Again, what has changed? If there was, this is one of the greatest okey dokes and like comp- greatest evidences or greatest what's it examples of sophistry working on a people on an uneducated populace. The sophisticated argumentation that they used to convince black people that Republicans were the boogeyman has to be one of the greatest examples of sophistry in modern history, because Democrats are the ones that have done nothing to help further the black community. They have continually shown themselves to be an abusive spouse at the best. That's what you can call them, an abusive spouse, constantly keeping black people on, like using them to get political power while holding that carrot out in front of them that they'll never ever get. It's coming. Your day is coming. The power's coming. Your reparations are coming. This is coming. We'll talk about it. We'll keep talking about it. And black people keep going back 90+% every time in national elections, continuing to vote for these people. And again, because that's one of the lies that they tell them, that they switch sides. They're the racist boogeyman. Watch out for them. They're the racist boogeyman. Ah, they're scary, right? But again, when you play on someone's fear, that's an ad baculum fallacy, right? To the stick, the threat of Republicans repealing the 13th Amendment and things like that, if you were to vote them in. That's how they continually get black people, to the ones that will vote, to go and vote Democrat. There's really nothing that they've done to enhance or improve the lives of black people on a significant level. They've had our vote since the 60s, almost 80 plus to 90+%. And the conditions of black people have become more and more deplorable with each passing generation. We've gotten dumber. Although we've gained more money, I wouldn't say we've gotten more degrees. We have way more degrees. I ain't going to say that we've gotten dumber. But in essence, we have gotten dumber because the education system has continued to spiral. We've gotten worse and worse in every metric, socially, socioeconomic metric. We can't keep marriages together, broken homes, wealth. The wealth gap is increasing because the education gap continues to, separate. Everything that the government promises us has become, like specifically the Republicans, the Democrats, everything that they promised us has gone up in smoke. But the one thing that they keep doing is pointing back to the fact that the party switched and that the Republicans would be worse than they are. How can it get much worse? Going back to being in chains is the only thing that they can talk about. Y'all don't want to get back in them chains, do you, boss? Right? Okay. So no, I would say that's actually a bold-faced lie that they tell. All right, voted Democrat in 96 to 2000. Come on, that's the same thing. That ended for me in 2012. Same story right there. That's it. That's my story too. I voted Democrat, straight ticket since 2008, and then in 2012, didn't. All right. Yes. The dividing line seems to be just social issues these days, and that really is what it boils down to, because people are social creatures, and they resonate with these things because of emotional argumentation, right? Jewel, you know this. Pathos is so powerful. The pathetic argument, the one that appeals to emotion. And when you have people who haven't been taught how to think logically and only emote, then the one who appeals to emotion and can grab their emotions will win the day. It happens every time, every year. Play on what? Fear, connection to others. They play sympathy. That's another one. They're always playing on emotions. Never. Their logical argumentation is so easily dismantled. You would think that Republicans, because they have the logical argumentation, it's wrong to kill babies. It's like these things are destroying the country. Like the debt is growing. But then they're hypocritical because they're not doing anything to stop this. Like they're not. They're still going along with it, pushing further and further left. And now what you see is Republicans are saying, okay, well, this has worked for the Democrats. The use of the pathetic argument, they're trying to do it as well. And again, it's so disheartening because ethically, the Democrats are horrible, but the Republicans don't give you much better options. Logically, yes, the Republicans have better logical arguments, but the packaging It's just really bad. And then they'll say stupid things that cause you to like not really their characters is a lot. So when Republicans talk about being the ethical party, but then they'll still vote in people who are ethically trash, then you lose your appeal to ethos, right? And then the pathetic argument, the pathos, they are so poor at it because they're so detached from the culture, because the culture has been pushing more and more towards liberalism and towards emotionalism and everything else. So they're still over here pretending that they have some sort of connection to the culture, but it's a culture from the past, and so much of that has been eroded. And now they're trying to fight fire with fire, and it's just it the Republican vote is a yes. What you got to say? Yeah, exactly. Mr. Allen's about to tell you that switch was false. Yeah, it was false. Yeah. All right. So just as there was once, what is that? SP. Yeah. What you say? Oh, okay. Let me say. Okay. Let me. I'm gonna bring yours up in a second, Thomas. I want to look at. Let's see. All right. So Jalon says, what do you say? Voted blindly Democrat until 2016. Never again. Yeah. See, it's like so many people have been awakened to the foolishness of the Democrat platform and the how it is the opposite of what promotes human flourishing. What they did, the deficit, the the will continue to grow. The budget will continue to expand. They're going to print more money. We're going to go into recession until the dollar is virtually worthless. They're going to keep this up. It's just you know, they're trying to play this game so that, oh, well, we don't want to go into the depression, but we'll keep the recession going. It's just like this really weird. um it's a really good book on that. Very simple, very easy to read. It's called Whatever Happened to Penny Candy. It's a very simple book on economics. There's two books on economics that I would recommend. Obviously, Thomas Sowell's Basic Economics. I actually started reading The Wealth of Nations, but that one might be a little bit too much. But Whatever Happened to Penny Candy is also a good one. It's somewhere in this room. It's probably over there on that. Yeah. Anyway, but I'll put it. I'll put it up there somewhere. Yeah. Let me go to Thomas's. Let me see what Thomas was talking about. Let's see. All right. Let's see, Thomas. What you got? Just as there was once was a separation between church and state, there once was a difference between Christians and those considered Gentiles. The Bereans identified this in Scripture, didn't they? So those who Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I would have to parse that out a little bit more so we can figure that out. If they switched sides to win the South, that strategy was unproductive, and they didn't win the South in 1970, but rather in the late 90s. Yeah, right. And that's it, right? Alan's talking about it. Kiana's talking. They're gonna put y'all back in chains, right? That's basically it's fear. Every time it's fear. They continue to play on fear, right? And that's it. That's all they have. That the Republicans will put us back in chains. What's going on, BCDC? What's happening, brother? What's happening? What's happening? Let's see. Each community, town, or city that was built, its foundation and meeting place was the church, which financed loans, small business. Yeah. So remember, that's one of the reasons why they would always make that the steeple or the highest point in the city, in a town, the cross. That's the central place. It's kind of like the agora. No, the Acropolis in Greek society, right? The Acropolis was the highest point, right? The agora would be where everybody would go and meet, right? So in a lot of instances, the church was the Acropolis and the agora of smaller cities, right? It would be the high point. You could look to it. Hey, that's what it is. And then the people would go and meet there, right? And everything functions out like the church was integral to everything, to the businesses, to the politics, to everything that went on in that city. And essentially that's Christian nationalism in a nutshell. A lot of people there's a raging debate about it, but the church being central, because that's where the morals of the people are formed. That's where even your politicians who are behaving improperly could be disciplined, right? By the church, by the pastor. They had someone in authority over them because they recognized God's authority and God's order, that the state was not to, um, you know, was not to interfere with the matters of the church, but the church was, in essence, supposed to be a prophetic voice to interfere with the affairs of the government. If the government overstepped its boundaries, hey, no, you don't. That's not your place. But again, when you don't have that, the family, the self governance, family, household governance, then the church governance, and the magistrate. If you don't have that that what am I looking for? That hierarchy, right? If you don't understand that, then individualism comes, right? I'm my own man. I make my own rules, right? And I don't need to have a family. I don't need to be a part of a church. I don't need to be a part. Like, the government exists to serve me. Everything's about the individual, not about the community, right? What we have in common, what would be best for the group. Because there's sometimes things that will not be best for me, but if they're better for other people, then maybe I should be voting for that. Maybe I should not think just myself. Maybe I should think, what does God have to say about this? Even if it doesn't benefit me in the short run. But ultimately, those things will benefit us all in the long run if God's will be done, right? Blessed is a nation whose God is the Lord. A righteousness exalteth a nation. If righteousness is what the nation is founded upon, that's always going to benefit me in the long run and even in the short run, right? Yeah, this is a really good conversation. I was supposed to be playing. I got like a whole list of videos. I might just have to do another live tomorrow with this, with these. Yeah, I might have to do a part 2 on this, right? Because we're almost done for this hour, and I have not played one video. That's how good the conversation has been with you all. All right, so let's see. Let's get these likes up. Well, we got 10 people in here and 10 likes. So yeah, like, you need a book list. Look, I got your book list. I look, whoo, yeah. And you know what? You know what I might do? There's a new feature coming out on for creators. It's called Go Live Together. YouTube is about to roll it out. There's a couple of brothers that I actually want to have on who are more adept at this conversation than I am. They're more well read. They've been more widely read. I want to have some interviews with them and then post them. One of them, I'm actually going to try to get Gary DeMar on here to discuss some of these things. I reached out to him, and I need to reach out via Instagram. I need to reach out to him via email to set something up. But yeah, that book list, right? First and second time voting was for Obama, blindly voting Democrat, but God. He said, but God. Right? I hear that. Look, I voted for Obama the first time, then the second time I was like, I don't think I can do this again. Nah, man. Right? I blinded. Yes. I know the book list grows and grows and grows. She's telling the truth. The book list grows and grows and grows. I can't read all of these books that I have in here. I'm going to be reading for a while. I think the Lord, yeah. Whew. Okay, what you got to say, Dwayne? What we got? All right, the LGBT community has become a big factor with these new elections, but they probably will vote against the Christian. Oh yeah, they're going to vote against any Christian values, because the LGBT community recognizes that Christianity, coming from the scriptures, is against their lifestyle. They recognize this. That's why they want to change the church, infiltrate the church, get LGBT sympathizers and some LGBTQ pastors and leaders, and change the narrative. Play upon what? Emotions. They know they can't logically argue from the scriptures. The logic of the Christian sexual ethic is airtight. They have to try to use sophistry. Maybe Paul wasn't saying this. It's basically ad ignorantium. Because we don't know everything about everything that was happening during that time. It's possible that Paul was only talking about temple prostitution and cult prostitution. Like, nah, fam, nah. Nope, because we can go back and look at what the words that Paul pulled from the Septuagint, Leviticus chapter 18, Leviticus chapter 20, like 18:20 and 20:13, and he put new words together straight from there and made a new word to talk about exactly what he wanted to talk about: people who lay with other people, men who lay with other men, arsena koitos. No, there's no logical, no. Just tell them no, straight up. No, you can't change that. The logic is airtight. Now you can try to appeal to emotions and try to, gay is the new black and piggyback on the sufferings of black people in this country and try to pretend like y'all are Y'all are the same. Like we're the same. We're not, because every time I walk down the street, people know I'm black. Like they ain't no hiding it. There's a genetic. Like if somebody were to take my blood and do a test on it, they gonna know that I got black in me somewhere. They're gonna be able to somewhere in my blood is gonna be some West African something, right? They know. They're gonna be able to tell. They ain't gonna be able to tell whether or not I prefer to lay with men or lay with women. You can't tell that. You can't. So miss me with that. Y'all trying to jump on the civil rights struggle of black people. When the last time a gay person wasn't able to vote? Right? Like codified. Just explain that to me. When you can explain that to me, like just based on, because when we used to walk to the polls, they'd be like, no, nobody. If a gay person walked up to the polls, nobody would be able to tell, hey, you're gay, get out of here. No, sorry. No, you wouldn't be able to. But anyway, that's a whole nother point, right? You just got me off on a tangent. My point regarding the Marias was due to how many politicians claim to be, yet the conditions are getting worse. Yes. Oh, you're talking about yeah. Yeah, it would be, oh man, you hitting on so many good points. Y'all hitting on so many good points. It's crazy because all these people claim to be Christian. Think about this. What's the percentage? At one point, it was like 70+% of Americans claim to be Christian. Why then? Why? Murder rates high, abortion, advancing LGBTQ ideologies. Why? Where were these pastors telling their members who was supposed to be, again, when you detach, like this is why the federal government was not supposed to be this big. Detach the federal government from everyday people. Nancy Pelosi don't live like me. She don't know me. My federal, was it Troy Carter, whoever my representative is, will be after tomorrow. I know who they are now, but whoever these people are, they don't live like me. They don't know the struggle of the everyday man. Case in point, I can't vote myself a raise. They can vote theirself a raise. They don't have the same problems I have. So again, how you going to tell me these people are Christian people when our country keeps descending into the abyss of sin? You can't. I get what you're saying now, Thomas. Exactly. Everything is getting worse. Come on. Let's see what you got. What you got, Dwayne? What you got? I'm gonna close this thing up in a second. But I'm gonna do a part 2 of this tomorrow where we're gonna talk about some of these videos that I got from Woke Preacher clips. I was supposed to do it today. We're gonna do part 2 of this tomorrow for the actual election day. I will vote when there's a party that 100% strictly Bible-based Christian party which probably won't happen because there's many anti-Christian religions in America. Yeah, well, I mean, again, that's your conviction. That's your conviction. I don't see how anybody would be able to tell you that you should vote. Now, as long as you're doing other things in the community where you're, sharing the gospel, seeking the welfare of your city, if it's not voting, then I can't in good conscience tell you that you have to vote, right? I can't make that exegetical argument. Maybe someone can, but I haven't been able to make it. What's going on, Violet? Hello. If y'all not subscribed to Berean Babes, check her out. All right. Let's see. What you think, Kiana? All right, checked out the audio version of Communism, Color, and Common Sense from the library. I listened to it. Mine was blown, and I have to recommend it to others. All right, I need to get that audio then. I'm going to listen to it. I need to get the audio. Yes. Right, I know. That will only be when Christ sets up his kingdom on earth, right? Well, see, and look, for the post-millennial, right, we think that's what's happening right now. He's putting all his enemies under his feet. So we need to keep doing our part to make that happen, right? And again, I think a lot of times I'm not gonna look. If I say this, I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna say this because I was gonna get in trouble with some of my. I ain't trying to bring that kind of smoke from our Christian brothers and sisters. I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna leave that alone. All right. Imagine if a Muslim president gets elected. That should be interesting. Yeah. That is true. See, he agrees, right? God said what he said, and it was clear, and he was very clear. That is true. All right. We had a semi-Muslim president already, right? Obama, right? We saw how he wanted daylight between USA and Israel when he abandoned from the Iranian nuclear deal. Okay, yeah. See, all kinds of say that again. I don't know what I said, but I'll say it. Praise the Lord, right? I'll go back and look when you posted that. That's why when you get behind on comments, I gotta stop all this talking and start getting behind on comments. All right. So let's see. They tried to blend the struggle. Oh, I think okay, there it is. All right, I think I know where I was. All right, they tried to blend the struggle for civil rights with LGBT, and I was highly with that when he was born with it. Right, exactly. We were born with this color, right? People can tell, people can tell. I can't walk around like Clayton Bigsby, right? He was blind, the Dave Chappelle character. All right, this is my pre-save days. All right, I was like, nah and nope, exactly. Yes, indeed. I checked out the State of Theology link you shared. I was surprised, but not surprised. Exactly, Jalon. That's exactly. You shouldn't be surprised because we see it all around us, right? We see it. Yeah, we know people don't believe. If people believe the way they were supposed to believe, we wouldn't see all this stuff happening around us. Exactly. Surprised, but not surprised, right? Voting these days is like choosing how you want to die, a gun or a knife. You want it slow, right? Or you want it quick, right? That's pretty much, in a lot of ways, and it's sad because because we have this right, you want to exercise it for God's glory, right? All things should be done to his glory, right? Whether you eat or whether you drink or whatever you do all to the glory of God. And that includes voting. But I'm also of the mind that Romans 14, where it's like, okay, if I'm convicted not to vote and you're convicted to vote, let's just, hey, we as Christians, we can disagree on those things. But we can't disagree on the discipling and everything else that goes along with being a part of the Christian body. Right. If for you, it's like, I don't want to vote for these people because I can't in good conscience vote for somebody who I know will not enact policies that honor God. All right. So, we can have disagreements on that because we will disagree on that. But we can also lament the fact that we got to this point because of the pastors abdicating their prophetic role to call the government to account, to uphold godly principles in government, and not overstepping their boundaries, not trying to be the church, right? The government is trying to be church and family at the same time. They're trying to tell us what is moral. No, that's not. No, the Bible tells us that. We don't get our morality from the government. The government upholds what is moral, what God has instituted as moral and good, and it punishes those who violate that. That's the government's job. But the government's now like, well, we're going to take care of you. We're going to be your daddy, your mama. We're going to tell you where you can go, when you can go, and we give you your rights. We're bestowing rights upon you. So now the government is basically God, right? Like, no voting, no ducking, no consequences. That's one of the videos we're going to talk about again tomorrow. All right. So we're going to do part 2 tomorrow. We're going to go part 2. I'm gonna put a little part 2 in the middle of that thing, and we're gonna go through all of those clips that I have lined up. I'm gonna show y'all real quick. Let's see. I have. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 clips to go through tomorrow for part 2. 18 clips. We're gonna talk about what's supposed to be. We talked about how we should vote, some things that we can. Now we're going to look at some of the things that people have been telling us we should be voting for as black people. All right, blacks in the booth. So should Christians vote? We said, well, depends on your conviction, right? Some people are convicted that they should, some people that they shouldn't. And how should we vote? We got to vote exegetically to glorify God in everything we do. We're called to glorify God in everything, whether we eat or we drink, the most mundane things, or whatever you do all to the glory of God. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to cut it right here. But join me tomorrow at 2 o'clock, same time, same channel. We're going to talk about some of these videos. I got 18 videos lined up. I don't know if we're going to get through all 18, but we're going to talk about this. I appreciate you all for giving me a lot to think about, a lot of pushback. I love the conversation. Let's keep having these. I want to do one of these every now and then where I'm not doing a topic about, like black culture review, even though this was kind of a black culture review. A black culture review or something like that. I have a couple of other episodes lined up that I was going to do about in the game, about the Astros winning the World Series and stuff like that. But I'll push that back a little bit because the election was important. I wanted to talk a little bit about this. But yes, grace and peace to all of you. I appreciate you all again for sticking with me. Yes, they do. Elections do have consequences. You ain't lying. You ain't never lying. Come on. All right. But until next time, be on the alert, stand firm in the faith, Act like men. Be strong. See y'all around. Bye.